Next up, we have your segment, Adrian, Hidden Gem.
Hidden gems.
So the hidden gem, and it's we had Blade last week, right? So it's not like it's a crazy obscure that character nobody's heard of all the time. It can be, but hidden gem is kind of like one that's really not been in the limelight for a while, right? It could be. A lot of times you pick people that are characters that we've not seen in live action yet, or maybe characters that aren't as popular now as they were maybe 5-10 years ago. I mean, we've had Constantine on here. We've had Captain Marvel's Binary. We've had Nova. So this week, I know you got something special, but this is kind of, I'd say, more of an obscure one that not a lot of, I don't think everyone's going to recognize this one.
Okay.
There's one, you had Nova, and then you had the first guy, the Guardian.
Yep.
That was one where I was surprised I even knew who he was. But then, Blade, Constantine, I knew this one, I've heard the name, but I don't know a lot about this one.
Right.
So who is our hidden gem this week, Adrian?
All right. So this week, this character, I was first introduced to this character when I first started looking at comics. Only because I'm flipping through like the little turnstile in the drugstore. You see the comics book, and the costume was very flashy, very attention grabbing. So I picked this comic book up and I started reading it, and it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool character, lot of power, and just over the years, I mean, he just nobody really pushed him. He was sidelined for a while actually. Yeah. And then they tried to bring him out. And they come out with something that just didn't even make sense, and then he goes back underground again. So the hidden gem for this week is Firestorm.
Okay.
This is a DC character. Extremely powerful. As a matter of fact, he's probably more powerful than the entire Justice League. Not the entire Justice League, but what we understand as the Justice League. So Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, blah, blah, blah. Because he has Firestorm is this kid, Ronnie Raymond. He was fused with this teacher, Martin Stein, during a nuclear accident. So the teenager, Ronnie Raymond, he has the body and he's in control. But this Professor Stein is in the background, sort of like a passenger. He sees everything that Firestorm sees. He kind of guides him, things like that in the background. So they're literally like a double character inhabiting one body when they come together. Their powers, they can fly, super strength, super senses, able to project energy blasts, speed. Some have, he's had a tumultuous kind of, history in the comics. So sometimes his powers change. He could pretty much teleport, go through, space, time, all this stuff. But the biggest power he has is the ability to manipulate matter. Unlike Green Lantern, who can create things, temporary things, with his ring, Firestorm, once he changes something, like, for example, if he decides to change lead into gold, it stays that way until he decides to change it back.
Got it.
So he's that level. Can he be Superman? Absolutely. Not strength to strength, because he can literally turn the air molecules in Superman's lungs to kryptonite. He can turn his suit into kryptonite. Yeah. He can do anything. Some say he could do, his power of manipulation is more or less tuned to inorganic matter, even though it has been said that he could do organic stuff. Yeah. Some say, well, if he does that, there's a lot of feedback, it's painful, so on and so forth. Others say, he can do it with more practice, things like that. But if that's the case, then he could literally turn people to glass, and they're going to stay that way.
Wow.
Period. So it's not a temporary change. They say that, even over time, I don't know if you know who Dr. Manhattan is, but Dr. Manhattan is like the ultimate matter manipulator. Over time, he could have that level of godlike power.
Wow.
So this character is no joke. It's just that, when you put him up against and he has been part of the Justice League. But you would see him in like the CWs, like the Flash and the Green Arrow.
He was in some live action stuff.
Right? Yeah. There was a cartoon animated version of it, of him. But he has really just been, pushed to the sideline. So that's it. That's him.
So I didn't know any of that. I always thought he was like a Human Torch type or Ghost Rider type because of the flaming hair. I thought he was just like a fire guy. And the name Firestorm.
Right.
But I had no idea of all the other stuff.
Well, the fire isn't flame. The fire is nuclear.
Okay.
So even though he could, because people compare him to Torch. Yeah. Torch is literally fire.
Right.
Firestorm is his flaming hair kind of is nuclear.
Yeah.
Like the torch could be blown out like a match. Firestorm. I mean, one of his weaknesses is high winds, but that's pretty much anybody. You get thrown around in a storm. But no, the power set is completely different.
Got it. Now, I've not seen much of the CW shows like the Arrowverse, but I did read, and you had just said it, that he was portrayed in those shows, right?
Right.
How was the portrayal there?
Not good.
No.
Just like the rest of his life in the comics, it's just demuted. Couple of weird characters.
Got it.
They threw in there.
Is he a
just
hero
not a
or
good
a
job.
villain?
He's a hero.
Okay.
He's definitely a hero.
Who's he mostly associated with? Like, does he own his own run of comics? Was he featured in somebody else's?
He had his own run of comics, but when they tried to resurrect him, they would bring him back in different things. Like I said, the Flash, Arrowverse, all this other kind of crap. So
yeah, and I did read, and you said this as well. He was in the Justice League at some point in the comics,
right?
Yeah, got it. Now, do you think they would ever? Do you think they could bring him on screen properly?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I do. There was some talk about rebooting him because the Titans are taking over for the Justice League. That would be a great opportunity for them to reintroduce him and bring him back as one of those members because he's rubbed elbows with, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
So he has the respect of the old guard, and he would have the experience. I mean, he could probably, even though he would be butting heads, but he could probably lead the Titans from an experience standpoint. But of course, you always got Nightwing, so that wouldn't fly.
Right.
So, but definitely, they do have the ability to bring him back on live action and the animation anywhere. But they fumbled him, for decades. This character. For decades, so I don't know if they would. They want to keep bringing up, all the old guys, and then just changing out actors and actresses, and which is a shame because this is a perfect example of what I mean by, they bury all this talent, not just keeping the same old actors, but keeping the same old characters and not allowing the younger actors to come up along with some of these buried comic book characters like Firestorm, which I think would be amazing to see.
Now, last question I have about Firestorm: is there a Marvel character, hero, villain, any side of it, or who would be the closest thing to a Firestorm on the Marvel side, or power set standpoint, abilities, or is there?
I mean, I'm sure there are some, but nobody pops out.
Yeah,
I would say probably Phoenix.
Okay.
Only because of I've seen her manipulate matter, things like that. I'm gonna go with that for now.
Okay.
Maybe I'll revisit next week. I'll do a deep dive.
Gotcha.
But I try not to compare Marvel to DC characters directly.
Yeah.
Because they're two different universes, and it just kind of doesn't make any sense.
Yep. I hear you. Well, there you have it, Hidden Gem. If you like that segment, check out our Hidden Gem playlist. we've been doing this for a handful of weeks now,
Yep.
and there's some great hidden gems in the hidden gem playlist.
Yep.
And that's a good segue, Adrian. You mentioned Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
That brings us to our King